Yeah, here we go. So we'll just give this a try. Okay, well, just basically all it is. I mean, okay, first of all, we have we have these concepts of what we think meditation is. And so we're a bit surprised if you just sit there thinking. We think, well, that's not meditation. Meditation should be having no thoughts. But it's not true. There are two kinds of meditation, two modes, millions of techniques, okay? We'll just motivate first. Just think we're going to do this little 30 minutes together so we can develop our qualities, so we can be of benefit to others. So there's millions of techniques, but they all fit into the two modes. And actually the Tibetan word, so the first mode is concentration, and that is where you simply notice, there's no thought, you're aiming to stay focused, and that you need to get that eventually. It's called shamatha, where your mind has gone to a more subtle level, because it's then you can do the real work, which is the second mode of meditation, which in general is called insight. So what does that mean? Well, insight's a great word in English. In other languages, it's not quite used in a common way, so it's kind of seen as a bit mystical. We use it in daily life. You're thinking about a problem and you think, oh, I've got a bit of insight into that. It's just inner seeing. It's exactly a perfect word. So it's like anything, when you learn something first theoretically, you think about it and then the penny drops. You go, oh, I get it now. So that's when it becomes experiential. Well, this is this method. So the main method for getting insight into the meaning of karma, the meaning of impermanence, the meaning of the mind, the delusions, the meaning of emptiness, the meaning of bodhicitta, all the bodhicitta meditations, they're all using thinking. But it's based upon focus, a focused mind, and the more focus you have, the more laser-like your mind is, the more powerful, and indeed the more subtle your thinking, and that triggers the experience. So it's a process we understand. It's just that when we call it meditation, we get very confused. So we're just going to contemplate. I'll read them out and I'll say a couple of words and we'll just think about the meaning. Think about it, just think about it, focus on it. That's it. That's the meditation. So we'll see how we go for our 30 minutes. Just get comfortable. Just remember the appropriate meditation posture. If we can do it, the ideal is to be in full lotus position, because that's the most conducive for the best meditation when we get more advanced, when our mind is more subtle, because the body can stay upright and the subtler physical and mental energies can flow smoothly through our subtle nervous system, the way they describe in the Vajrayana. But if we can't, that's okay. Sit in the way you can. But whether you're sitting if you're sitting in a chair, don't slump into the back of the chair. You've got to keep your mind alert. And if the body is too relaxed, because meditation is not relaxation. It's not that at all. If your body's upright, then your mind can stay alert. So have your feet firmly planted on the ground and your body upright. Don't sink into the back of the chair. And your head slightly tilted forward, chin tucked in, lips apart, tip of the tongue resting behind the top teeth. All the great meditators have found that means you don't have to dribble all the time, which is very practical if you're meditating a long time. And your eyes looking down, as if you're looking along your nose towards the ground. So just settle into that position. We've got 14 verses. We'll see how we go. So the very first one, just contemplate that. To the degree that anything has any meaning for you, you just think it through, okay? Don't try to be puzzled. Don't try to think there's a certain thing you should be doing. Just be very relaxed about it. So this is by Tsongkhapa, our 14th century lineage Lama. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect, pure Guru, our spiritual mentor. So correct devotion to that person is the root of the path. So just think logically, why is that true? Well, it's like anything. You want to learn a good cake, a really best cake making, you need the best teacher. If you start off with the wrong teacher, you're lost. So it's sort of logical. Get the right person teaching you, everything flows from there, So if we don't have a spiritual teacher, or we don't think we have recognized a person who is Buddha for us, we just think, well, may I meet one day? May I recognize? But if you do have, just, think, may I become like that person? May I emulate their qualities? follow their instructions, and become like that myself. Because they're showing you what it is to be a Buddha. That's the idea. Best, the purest view is to see that person as the Buddha in front of you right now, showing you how to become your Buddha. As Lama Yeshe says, the Buddha's dead, you know. So the Four Noble Truths will only make sense to us when they're spoken by somebody in front of us. They become real for us then. So just think, may I become just like that person I've chosen as my teacher, who is the Buddha for me. May I become like them. So then thinking next, appreciating this precious human rebirth. We just take our life for granted. You know, we take the good for granted. We just have this very strong assumption that, of course, things should go right. Of course, I should be healthy. Of course, good things should happen. We have no logic. So if we here, though, think how incredible. If we look at the world, we're part of the 0.001% of the world. Not the rich, but the fortunate. We've got our sanity. We have the wish to be a better person, a wish to practice good ethics. It's incredible on this planet. We want to see our minds. We want to develop our qualities. We have reasonable health, reasonable conditions. We're not having to work 15 hours a day just to get a bowl of rice. So don't take it for granted. This is the result of your incredible past practice of virtue and goodness and good ethics in the past. So have the wish to make the most of this precious life, not to waste it. I mean, it's like you've got $1,000 note. You've never heard of money. Think about this. It's such a simple example. You've got a piece of paper, green, it's quite small, 1,000 written in the corner, and it's ugly and it's dirty. Of course, you don't appreciate it. It's horrible. You chuck it in the bin, or you use it it's even too small for toilet paper. Think about that. But when you know the value of it, you'd not waste it. It will be something precious, because it's a resource that you can use to get something. Well, that's this human life, this human body, and these conditions that we have, that we work so hard for. It's a resource. Do not waste it. So how do we not waste it? We use it to become, to develop our qualities and benefit others, become a Buddha. That's the best use of it. Make this aspiration, not waste this precious human life that I work so hard to get. Then think, it's impermanent. It's the nature of impermanence. It's changing every second. We can see this. Look in the mirror, but we can't stand it. So even increase our wish not to waste it, because we realize it will end. It will end, and we don't know when. This is fact. It will end, but we don't know when. But because we can't stand the thought of death, we can't stand the thought of changing, of impermanence, we live in a fantasy land. Death is in the future, way in the future somewhere. It's total nonsense, not logical. So I must increase my wish not to waste this precious life, because it will end at any moment. Lama Zopa says, best to think I'll die today. Then we're galvanized into action, not waste this precious life. So then we think, well, whom can I turn to give me methods that I can use not to waste this life, to use it to get the maximum benefit from this combination of this body, speech, and mind that I've got right now. So we turn to the Buddha. We rely upon the Buddha, his teachings. We rely upon him. We take refuge in the Buddha. So and then next, we now begin to actually practice. Having, if we have a teacher who is the Buddha for us, thinking about this precious rebirth, thinking of how impermanent it is and it'll end at any moment. Well, I better not waste time, so I'll turn to the Buddha. And now I will start to practice. I will abide by the laws of karma. This is the fundamental starting point. Control my body and control my speech. Because every millisecond of what I think and do and say sows seeds in my mind and produces the next person that I will become. I am now the product of past virtue. How incredible. So I must at least do more of the same, at least continue to practice not killing, not stealing, not lying, not sexual misconduct, not waste this body by harming others, at least this starting point, which is the actions I did in the past to produce what I am now. And then purify the negative karma that's already there. Given that my mind goes back and back, countless past lives, given that I've done countless actions, some positive, some negative, and I don't want the negative ones to ripen. I don't want suffering. I'm sick of suffering. So we put atomic bombs under them by purifying every day the four opponent powers. As Lama Zopa says, we're insane not to do it every day. This is bare minimum practice. Abide by the laws of karma. Don't harm others. Why? Because I don't want future suffering. And I want at least another of what I am right now, a decent human body with decent conditions. The very least I want is that, so I can continue to practice. So then we go to high school. Next level, we think now, having controlled our body and speech, which are the servants of our mind, we can now work on the mind itself, get to the root of the point, get to the actual problem, which is get the actual thing. This is when you actually become a Buddhist. Practicing virtue, practicing goodness is common to any decent human being on the planet. But this next level of practice, now becoming our own therapist, as Lama Yeshe says, this is unique to the Buddha. We now get to know our own mind, our thoughts, our emotions, to unpack and unravel them. So based on what model? The model, Buddha's model of the mind. So all these thousands of thoughts we have, they're either negative, neurotic, deluded, based on the deep assumption of a concrete me, and they're called attachment, aversion, and all the other dramas, the voices of ego, which are the root of why the body and speech do harm to others, which are the cause of my suffering. And I'm sick of suffering. Then I have the virtuous states of mind, love, kindness, compassion, generosity. I need to distinguish between these two lots. This is the job of, actually the essential job of being a Buddhist. Learning to distinguish between the herbs and the weeds. They look the same as far as we're concerned. They all come together in a big soup of emotion. We can't tell one bit from another. This is our job. So every second, watching our mind like a hawk, catching. I mean, we have 1,000 thoughts a second. They even say that in the West. So catching which thought it is. They're all thoughts. We think they're emotions, physical. No, that's just the tip of the iceberg. They're all underpinned by conceptual thoughts. So our job is to catch them and identify that's attachment thought. That's a attachment to reputation thought. That's attachment to comfort thought. That's attachment to food thought. That's attachment to money thought. That's attachment to getting what I want thought. That's an angry thought. That's a proud thought. That's a low self-esteem thought. This is what we've got to do. And then check which one, if it's negative and neurotic, argue with it. It has no basis in fact. Or just tell it to shut up if it's quite small. And then the positive ones, you delight in them and you grow them, have more of them. Don't be passive about it. Be your own therapist. And you can't do this if you don't understand the mind. So you must study the Buddhist model of the mind. It's very clear. It's not the same as Jung or Freud. Quite different. The Buddha's not asking you to think about what your mother did to you or your daddy or somebody in the past. Don't worry about that. Just learn to see your mind. Be your own therapist. So the consequences of this so far, controlling your body, your speech, and your mind, the consequence is that you become more happy, more fulfilled, more content, more grown up, more alert, more conscious, more happy. Is that not the goal? This is our benefit. We're giving up, renouncing suffering and its causes. This is the wisdom wing. You're the beneficiary of this. The main energy behind this level of practice is to help you stop further suffering, to help you become more happy. You're the beneficiary. Controlling your body, your speech, and your mind benefits you. Don't feel bad about that. Yes, of course, the rats and roaches, as Lama Zopa says, they'll have a party because you leave them in peace. But the energy of this level of practice is for you, to benefit you. Do not underestimate this. Now, having understood suffering and its causes and being sick of it, I can now turn to and look at others and go, oh my God, we're in the same boat. And now we go to the compassion wing. Everybody's the same. Everybody's driven by their own past karma, unconsciously. Everybody blames everybody else. Everybody wants happiness, is looking out there for it. Everyone doesn't want suffering. All living in this nightmare, not knowing why they are suffering, not knowing the causes of happiness. So we continue to work on our mind. This never stops from here to Buddhahood. But now it's in reference to others. So we cultivate bodhicitta. I forgot to read the verses. I'm sorry, I'm just saying it myself. I completely forgot the verses. Never mind. We're doing the whole path anyway. So you continue to work on your mind. That never stops. First, it's in reference to stopping you suffering. Now it's to help you increase your virtue, lessen your delusions, so you can be of benefit to others. So we get first equanimity. We recognize everybody wants happiness. Nobody wants suffering. Enemy, friend, stranger, doesn't matter. All the same. Then I start to see that all beings are kind. Why? That's not logical to us. Every being, everything I've had and experienced since my conception, every good thing that has ever happened to me since my conception in my mother's womb is as a result of the work and the life and the death of sentient beings. This is a fact. My food, my clothing, my eyeglasses, my furniture, my bed, everything that I use in my life that benefits me, it comes from the work of sentient beings. This is scientific fact. All beings, therefore, are kind. They could be the psychopath. There could be a psychopath making my glasses. He could be a pedophile. That's not the point. The fact of that person's work means that I can see. The people who grow the vegetables, I die without food. The kindness of others. That doesn't mean they're good people. That's not the issue. The fact that everything I have that causes me to have a life is the handiwork of sentient beings. All the millions of creatures who die just for my bowl of rice. This is fact, but we never think about it. So I must repay their kindness. I must repay their kindness. So I develop love, wish to make others happy, and compassion. The wish they do not suffer. That's my job. I cultivate great compassion. Mahakaruna. It's my job. If I don't do it, who will? The courageous attitude of the Bodhisattva. So a bird needs two wings. The beginning stages of practice, that's the beginning of developing the wisdom wing. Understanding karma, understanding the mind. This is the beginning of wisdom. But then we have to complete the wisdom with understanding emptiness. These delusions that drive our mind, ego grasping, the root delusion that believes in an intrinsic me, that gives rise to this bottomless pit of emotional hunger called attachment to get what the I wants. Frantic. This is what drives us in daily life. This constant hunger to get what the supposed I wants. And then the panic attack of aversion, anger, upset, annoyance, irritation, frustration, depression. All of these are the response of aversion when the attachment doesn't get what it wants. So we work on that in high school. Now we get to the root of the problem. We start to look into and argue with, deconstruct the root misconception, which is an utter belief, a complete, total, primordial belief that there is in here somewhere a concrete, real, pointable, separate, real me. And Buddha says, not only is there not one, you don't need one. So the two truths. Conventional reality, there is a me, a dependent arising me, dependent upon causes, which is karma, dependent upon the parts, the I, this label that is given to this phenomenon called a person. You know, there's a cup, a toilet, a microphone, and a person. We're a person. So our name, Robina, Matt, whoever, that applies to these parts sitting here in this chair, all the parts of the body, and all the parts of the mind. They are validly the parts. They're the components that make up this person. But we believe there's another part in there, a very special part. It's like the boss, and that part is called I. So it's kind of walking hand in hand with the nose, the ear, the knee, the anger, the love. We believe there's this other part, like a special one. And so there's one part is labeled nose. One part is labeled knee. One part is labeled anger. And we think there's another part labeled I. Our language tells us that. I have a nose. But you won't find an owner in there. You don't need an owner. Why? Because the other parts that you can point to, the anger, the love, the kindness, the knee, the nose, the ear, they all work very nicely together, being the me, being the person. But you can't find the person. But dependent arising, there is an I, but not from its own side. And then ultimate reality, the other truth, emptiness. There is no I from its own side. There's no I in here, in and of itself. But dependent arising, there is an I that does function perfectly to be I. So you've got to put these two truths together. Right now they seem contradictory, but they actually prove each other. The more I understand that in here somewhere there is no intrinsic, separate, independent bit called I, the more that helps me realize dependent arising. There is an I that does exist, that depends upon the parts, the causes, and finally depends upon the name I. As Lama Zopa says, when we've realized there is no intrinsic I, it's as if there's no I, but there is an I. But what does exist is so subtle, it's as if there is no I. So we have to put these thoughts together. Then we cut the root of all suffering, and combined with bodhicitta, we become a Buddha. So may may we realize each of these steps, each of these that we've just contemplated, the entire path to enlightenment. We've sown these seeds where we nourish them from this second forward. So we become exactly as we've contemplated. So for the rest of the day, whatever you've got left, use your body and speech for others. Don't just think it's me plodding through life. Think you're there for others. Whoever sees you or hears you, you're there for their sake. And your mind, it's your business. Watch it like a hawk. That's it. 30 minutes gone like a dream. So we put the entire path into our minds, okay? So be happy. Jang Trup Tem Trup Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ke Panyampa, Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Pa Ba Chog. Okay, darlings, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.